What's going on, everybody? GemMint here with today's new comic book day reviews. It's Wednesday, April 27th, and you know how we do it. Gonna review this week's comics as spoiler-free as possible, but bad news, my shop got shorted, so they only got the Diamond shipment, which means I only got the DC physical copies. Luckily, I got all the Image stuff and the Marvel stuff digitally from the publishers, but I missed out on Saga, issue 58. Which, to be honest, I'm not too upset about. I find myself not enjoying that series issue to issue. I would rather read it how I read the first half through the hardcovers. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get caught up on it. We have Demons too. Didn't get it. Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. Gonna have to pick it up later. And then the one that really broke my heart, The Last Ronin, issue 5. I didn't get it, man. Hopefully I get it tomorrow or the day after. But 3 big books, but that being said, still read a ton of books this week, so next week's going to be even crazier. Before we get started, make sure that you guys are following me on Whatnot, going live today at 2 p.m. Pacific, doing a giveaway for this Venom 27 Unknown Comics exclusive. This is a Del Auto variant. Just going to do a random followers giveaway, but I got great books, and we go on live for an hour. $1 comic book auctions that start at 20 seconds. Come through and join us. It's Whatnot Wednesday, and with that being said, let's jump into the Boom Studios book. So Something is Killing the Children 22 is out. James Tynion IV, Werther Deladria, and Miguel Muerto. Amazing issue. The art was fantastic. New origin. This new child, unfortunately, her family gets massacred. It's very reminiscent to other stories of people in this world. And the caveat here is, you know, Erica Slaughter steps in, but she's being hunted by the House of Slaughter. So there's kind of this element now that she's got to watch her back from not only the monsters, but her own people. So coloring is amazing. Art is amazing. And then we have Berserker, issue number 8. Keanu Reeves, Matt Kent, Ron Garney, and Bill Crabtree. One of my favorite series out right now. This issue was amazing. We show Unut, how do you say his name? Kind of figuring out some new powers and getting more glimpses into his potential origin 80,000 years ago. It's awesome. I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to know what happens next. I want to see what else they do with this franchise. Moving on over to Image, a new number 1, Bloodstained Teeth. This is by Christian Ward, Patrice Reynolds, Heather Moore, Hassan Oates, and Hassan Otsmane Alehu. I always get thrown off with his name because I think it's going to be someone else's name, but he got the 3 named name. I wasn't going to read this. I was like, what is this, a vampire book? I opened it up. I didn't put it down. I read the whole thing. I just wanted to skim through it on the PDFs, man. But the art, it has like a Art Deco color palette to it, rough pencils, and such a rich world. Like I said this on Bueller's live stream because he came through and I was on his live. It's like they said, let's do a vampire book, but let's like really do it right and really flesh out this universe and how you have the Sips and the True Bloods and like either the recruits and build this whole kind of structure within the vampire world and just making it feel so grounded and realistic. Highly recommend it. Great book. Then we're jumping on over to Chip Zdarsky's New Burn. We're on issue 6. He's joined by Jacob Phillips. This I find myself not really loving. It's a good read. Chip Zdarsky knows how to write a story. This one was really a backstory on the character on the cover, the neighbor to the victim that our main guy recruited in the beginning. I forgot what I was reading at first because it didn't have like our main character whatsoever, New Burn. But it's still kind of like, if you like to watch SVU and stuff like that, like I dig the book. Just was kind of slow backstory on this woman, how she got intermingled into all this stuff. So you don't feel too bad for her at the end because she's been around the block before. Which brings us on over to Gunslinger, issue number 7, Todd McFarlane and Brett Booth. And I kind of feel like Gunslinger Spawn is getting like too high paid of an actor syndrome. Now you don't see him without his mask at all. It's like Javi, his face always with the Spawn uniform. Like he's too good to have his face covered now. And Brett's artwork, amazing here. Gunslinger Spawn going up against this like Craven type of character that can transform into a werewolf, wolves everywhere. I know Todd McFarlane was digging the hell out of this issue, but amazing artwork. And yeah, our character, he's getting a little cocky now, but digging all the Spawn stuff right now. Which is going to bring us on over to DC. So I'm not reading Deathstroke Inc. Issue 8 comes out today, which is part 3 of Shadow War. The problem is that I'm reading Shadow War, and I read Robin, issue 13, which is part 4 of Shadow War. Now, that being said, I didn't really feel lost. This was still a good read by Williamson, Cruz, Ratman, and Guerrero. There's a lot of Deathstroke looking characters, and I have to try to remember who's who with Respawn and that Spawn and everybody else. Big, interesting kind of first appearance here. Reveal of a character. Lineage ties to legacy characters. It's going to be controversial, man. I guess you would consider this a key issue, but it seems like not much must have happened in Deathstroke, the Deathstroke Inc. issue, because this is the issue now where they finally are up to hearing that Deathstroke didn't kill Ra's al Ghul. So I don't know. It kind of feels like that other issue might have been a waste. Now we're on to Swamp Thing, issue 12 out of 16 by Rom V, Jeremy Perkins, and Mike Spicer. Some of the best in the business. And you got Industrial Horror. So being that that's the title of this, I just want to give this little tidbit away. I thought it was really cool. Rom V introducing his own realm. It's not the green, it's not the red, it's not the metal or the rhythm or whatever they called it in the Snyder Charles Soule run, but like the realm of industry that was created by man, which is gears and all the way up to nuclear power. And we see its avatar, or at least it's one of its warriors here, which is super cool. So yeah, it feels very Swamp Thingy. It feels like those other runs, and it ties it into the new character, not Alec Halling. It's the newer Swamp Thing, and him trying to, I guess, reconcile with what happened during the first arc with his brother, and there was a big clash, because that's also a big Swamp Thing trope. You know, very family ties with the Arcanes and all that. So anyway, dope, loving Swamp Thing, which is going to bring us on over to Batman Beyond the White Knight, issue 2 by Sean Gordon Murphy and Dave Stewart. So, you know, this feels like a very self-contained, rich universe. We know Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight, Curse of the White Knight, that whole thing, Jack Napier. And this one was a very future state-inspired Batman Beyond story where Dick Grayson is running this kind of militarized Gotham PD. And we have Bruce Wayne doing some old man Bruce Wayne breaking out of jail or whatever he was in. Jack Napier's in his ear like Johnny Mnemonic or some shit like that. But so yeah, you feel immersed in here. He paints such a good picture, and the atmosphere feels like very familiar. You know, you're in the Sean Gordon Murphy universe and you feel it, and I liked it. I don't really like how they're portraying Dick Grayson, and you're getting very little Batman Beyond in this book, which I think ends on the next issue, so that's kind of a problem as well. But it was a good Bruce Wayne in the Batman Beyond future. He's not totally incapable, which I kind of dig. Which brings us on to Joker, issue 14, the penultimate issue. James Tynion the fourth, Camicoli, Smith, and Prianto has a terrible punchline backup story, but Joker 14, you know, it was an okay story. Closure between Bane and Vengeance, leaving on a cliffhanger. What was the fate of the Joker? You know, I'm thinking it's going to be a no-brainer, but maybe he's going to throw us for a big loop as to what transpired between the final battle between Bane, Vengeance, Joker, and Jim Gordon. Did Jim Gordon kill the Joker? We'll have to read the next issue to find out, but nice little 15-issue maxi series, if you will, which has kind of been all over the place, but, you know, whatever. Moving on over to Dark Knights of Steel, issue 6 of 12. So this one has been one of those miniseries by Tom Taylor, Purity and Prianto, that has always got pick of the week, it seems like, right? This one, it wasn't as strong. It felt very Games of Thrones-ish. I mean, I liked it, but there were no big high stakes, no big what the F moments here. Kind of just like these two houses gearing to go to war, and then the Themyscirians, the Wonder Woman, Amazonians, if you will, gonna be this third party. I mean, it was all right. I do like the world, and it's 12 issues, so we got a little bit more room to breathe. Moving on over to Action Comics, issue 1042. This is by Johnson, Federici, and Low Ridge. So we're continuing the same kind of Clark on Battleworld, giving heroic speeches, fighting like a mortal, and not just as somebody who has superpowers. So that's all good and well. You have this cool little Steel and Lois Lane backstory, which has me wondering, because it feels like the Grant Morrison Steel. I mean, is it the New 52 Steel? Is it the Rebirth Steel? I would assume, are we still in Rebirth? Anyway, I kind of like this kind of revelation, the connection that Steel could have with Superman on Warworld. That sounds interesting. And there's a Martian Manhunter backup story by Aldridge, Mello, and Hi-Fi. I just gave it up a few issues ago, so I'm not reading it. But then we have Detective Comics, issue 1059 by Tamaki, Shamus, Grace, Reese, Lapon, McKee, Anderson, and Molihill. But very much feeling more like a detective book and less like a superhero book now. Kind of who tried to bomb this judge, who just so happens to be the daughter of that reporter from the Daily Planet, who seems like the same age almost. I didn't buy her daughter was a judge. I mean, you got to be a lawyer for a long time before you could be a judge, right? I thought that was kind of weird, but otherwise I did like the vibe and the tone of the book. It felt like a detective book. Batman, flexing his detective skills. And then we have Justice League 75, The Death of the Justice League, which has an amazing, I don't want to say amazing, I just think it's fun, man. What do you call it? It's not die cut, it's kind of like, it's clear or whatever. It's a prelude to Dark Crisis, or prelude. If you're like me and you dropped Justice League a while ago, have no fear, you could pick this up. It's basically Joshua Williamson with Sandoval, Tarragona, and Herms find an excuse to pull in all the Justice League members into this Nexus point. We even grabbed Superman from War World, who's in Superman gear, but don't worry about it. We're in this world right now, leading up to this Dark Crisis, this blackness, this darkness that's in between worlds. The bleed is what they call it, in between the different Earths throughout the multiverse. So we're having this big kind of epic tie-in between the Justice League Incarnate and what happened in all these big DC events leading up to this crisis is basically what we're dealing with here. So you could jump on here and then follow where it leads with the whole Dark Crisis event. I thought it was worth a read. And last from DC, from Black Label, we have Rogues, issue 2 by Joshua Williamson, Leah Max Lopez, and Wordy, a Gorilla Grodd story. So the Rogues are going to Gorilla City to look for the lost treasure, all the gold, but Gorilla City is not quite what they have been led to believe it was. It's much more than they thought it could be, and it was a cool issue. It feels like Superior Foes of Spider-Man, but Batman Rogues, but a little bit more R-rated, a little bit more... mature, if you will. I dig it. I always like to pick up these DC Black Label magazine stories. They tend to be oversized, longer, good stories. Which brings us to Marvel, man. So Marvel is getting pick of the week. That's exciting. Amazing Spider-Man issue 1 comes out. Zeb Wells, John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menez. I would love to say I enjoyed it, but I can't say that I did, man. I didn't love it. It feels disconnected. I don't know what Peter Parker they're referencing. Is this picking up from the Nick Klein run? Is it picking up from the Beyond run where he just got out of a coma, out of the hospital? If they mentioned it, I missed it. Art can be very good when it comes to Spider-Man or Peter Parker, but when it comes to Tombstone, man, I'm not feeling the art. He looks like the chameleon, and Peter feels like he's not written like Peter Parker. He feels kind of like an asshole. So I don't know. I wasn't really digging that. I did like the one failsafe, the Peter's roommate, is it Robbie? And the whole Tombstone interaction, like I kind of like that story, which is, a little part of this issue. So I was a little bit disappointed, which brings us on over to Thor 24. It's a legacy issue, 750 issues of Thor. So it's acting like an annual. It has a bunch of short stories, another oversized issue that kind of is sandwiched by this Donny Cates funeral for an Allfather, the death of Odin issue. So you get this Beta Ray Bill backup story, you get this Jason Aaron written Thor story, and I like where Donny Cates leaves off. Big things for Odin, as Donny Cates does, which is why he's one of my favorite writers, because he does big things, big what if this happened type of events. So I really dug that, and it was cool to see all these legacy Thor writers on the book. Al Ewing was on there, Jan Durgans, J. Michael Straczynski. So expect a big oversized Thor annual, but expect that those little stories in the middle of this comic book sandwich are just, filler, and that the main story is kind of like the bookends if you're caring about the current ongoing, that is. All right, which brings us on to a new number 1. This is Knights of X, issue 1 by Howard Quinn and Arsene Yeager. Didn't like this one, man. And what I've come to realize is that I just don't dig modern Excalibur stuff. I don't care about Otherworld, about Betsy Braddock, about Jubilee and Shugo. It feels like the same story over and over again. I don't even know why we're revisiting this world. I forget what it is. Don't care. Not into it. Moving on over to Alien, issue 11. Philip Kennedy Johnson, Salvador La Roca, and Guru EFX. I mean, what can I say about this issue that I haven't said about the whole run? It feels like the movie. I like where they go with the mythos. We find out why this planet was really terraformed, why they built a religious structure there, and we learn how evil the Weyland Corporation is. We already knew they were. Now they're learning how evil it really is. So it's fun to see that. Great story, great art, great tone, great pacing. Great series. Moving on over to Sabretooth issue 3. This is by Laval, Kirk, and Brado. you know, this is a trippy book for a Sabertooth book. Like, what if you put Sabertooth in this, like, mental prison, then you put other prisoners there, but come to find out he's really made this thing his own living nightmare, and figured out a way to kind of project their astral forms onto Krakoa, which is what you see going on the cover here. So yeah, it feels bigger and it feels like more deeper than what a Sabertooth book would be, but he's still kind of the main focal point, a little bit more in the background here. I don't know. I'm going to keep reading it. I don't know how I feel about it. All right, guys, then we have Hulk Grand Design. This is it Madness by Jim Rugg. It's really issue 2 of Hulk Grand Design. So you're getting super fast-paced, breakneck speed, Hulk history in a sentence, in a panel, in a square. You're getting, man, everything from the origins of the Joe Fixit stuff to the Heroes Return, Heroes Reborn stuff during Infinity Gauntlet. So just all your Hulk history. I think this brings us to, I think this is the last issue. I don't think they're going to delve into like Immortal Hulk or anything like that, but you know what you're getting with Grand Design at this point. Very comic strippy like artwork, regardless on who the creators are on that book. This one by Jim Rugg just happens to fit that same tone that we've seen with Ed Piskor. Moving on over to Silver Surfer Rebirth issue 4 by Ron Mars and Ron Lim. They're joined by Don Ho and Israel Silva. I love this, man. You have different like versions of Silver Surfer throughout the eras. There's they're all being combined with this Reality Stone, having to work with Thanos and this Jack of Hearts character. It's which I said was funny how he showed back up after I just got done reading the New Avengers omnibus. It feels like 90s retro. It feels like Ron Lim Silver Surfer, so it's good in that aspect. This one didn't really have any big wow moments for me to push it further towards pick of the week, but it was up there for me. Moving on over to Carnage, issue 2 by Ram V, Mana, and Dijo. And this almost got pick of the week, man. Ram V is doing a what if Carnage was a serial killer of superpowered beings, like the Carnage symbiote by itself, who no longer needs a host, although he's got this kind of lackey who really wants to be his host and has a little bit of potential. He's got gumption. He wants it bad enough. So the symbiote is like keeping him around and seeing if he can hang. And as we saw with issue 1 with his battle with Hydro Man, he's like able to siphon like the essence of these supervillains or steal their powers, if you will, and become this new force to be reckoned with. So if you like Carnage, you're gonna love this because it's more than just mindless bullshit. It's an interesting, deep, horror-inspired Ram V story, but has cool superhero stuff as well. Which brings us on to our pick of the week. Before we jump into it, I do want to thank Dynamite for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out their new releases this week. Red Sonja issue 8, Draculina issue 3, Vampirella / Dracula Unholy issue 5, and Barbarella issue 9. No, I'm not reading any of those, but they do have a new #1 for Red Sonja coming out next week, so I'm definitely going to check that one out. So, pick of the week, guys, Punisher issue 2, got my pick of the week. Jason Aaron, Saez, Asita, and Stewart. Jason Aaron does the best job of making me feel really bad for Frank Castle and making me feel for the death of his family. He just makes it hit so hard, man. I don't know what he does, and I love this story of him working with the Hand with the hopes of resurrecting his wife, man. And I don't want to give too much, but I just want to say, like, man, seeing her like alive with the bullet wounds and not really knowing what happened, kind of groggy, you know, trying to put the pieces together. Punisher Frank Castle doing whatever he can do to get his family back, man. So it kind of hits hard. It feels like the beginning of an epic run. I know it had a lot of controversy with the logo. Get the logo shit out of your head because you're gonna miss a good story. And that's what I got this week, guys. Dang, I wish I read Last Ronin. I'm going to have to include those in next week's video. Let me know what your favorite comics were in the comments down below. Make sure to check me out on Whatnot Later. Like I said, it's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Got great books, or you could just join, shoot the shit, potentially win that slab, and hang out with your boy. If you haven't downloaded it yet, the link's in the description. They'll give you a $10 credit towards your first purchase. And that's it, man. Appreciate your time. Stay minty fresh. Peace.